Sparking Change with Gigi, a show that aims to make the world a better place by bringing together authentic minds. This show encourages each of us to be the change we wish to see in the world. Get ready to be inspired and join us on this journey to create a brighter future for all.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining. I'm your host, Giovanna Tartarone. This is Sparking Change with Gigi, and today we're going to have a great show. We're going to be talking about living authentically, creating that path where you really are connected to your true self, and you want to experience the best that life has to offer. And I have a special guest, Katie Augustine. Thank you for joining me. She is a transformation coach and shamanic practitioner. She's the founder of the Transformation Center in Westport, Connecticut, which, in addition to her individual coaching and healing sessions, she offers both in-person and online workshop, classes, and events. Welcome, Katie. Thank you for joining me today.
Well, thank you so much for having me, Giovanna. It's great to be here.
Oh, I had such a great time being on your show that I had to have you on my show because we had such great conversations on really how to live life with peace, fulfillment, and joy. And I wanted to start off the year to really help people, as they are entering to a reset, right? They've hit the reset button for a new year, creating new goals for themselves. How important it is to really set goals that are true to who they really want to be and what they want to do. So I want to open up to, just let's have a conversation. How did you get into your work? Because you're doing what you love to do. It was so obvious. So, let's talk about that.
Yeah, that's true, Giovanna. And I've been doing what I'm doing now for, I would say, close to 20 years. And before that, I didn't know what was missing in my life because I had a great life. I have a wonderful husband and son and lots of friends, and, we're comfortable and everything. But I kind of thought, there must be a little bit more to life than just the 3D world, so to speak.
Yeah.
And I realized after I met, she's now my colleague and my friend and still my mentor. Her name is Kathy French. And I met her and learned about energy healing and how to help people through that. And I realized what was missing was a connection to spirit. Like that.
So simple, but yet so profound. Because
yeah, exactly.
I've had that connection. Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm talking about, I'm sure.
Yes, absolutely. It's, having that, when you answer that question, what do I really want in life? I mean, we all ultimately want the same thing. We really do. We want to have, joy, happiness, health, prosperity. We all are asking for the same thing. And like yourself, I had it all as well until, I had my wake-up call, through a cancer journey. I finally realized, wait a minute. So all that work that I did in my life I wasn't really on the right path. I really didn't feel that until I did exactly what you just said. I got into the world of energy and I found out, I will say, the secrets of life. The secrets of life. And when we know there's another way to doing things, we just open up our heart to receive. And then the path is shown to us. But if you're willing to make the change, right? So you made a change because you had it all as well.
I did. And you know what? It wasn't so immediate. It was gradual.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't like you where, you had a wake-up call and you shifted pretty dramatically, I believe. For me, it was very subtle and it took some time. And at first, I did the training in energy healing, how to be an energy healer. It was called One Light Healing Touch at that point in my life. And I thought, well, this is great, but I don't know what I'm going to do with it. I did it for myself, in other words, to learn about myself and, to gain a greater self-awareness and what's possible.
Yes.
That's what I loved about it. It opened up a whole nother world of possibilities for me.
Yes. And for you to accept that, you had to let go of a lot of things that you knew, right? Because it's almost like retraining our mind all over again from
Yes.
what we
Yes.
know.
Right. And
It's
it's
what, yeah.
actually, for me, Giovanna, it was getting out of my mind. So I like to say
Yeah.
getting out of my head and into my
Yeah.
heart.
So beautiful. Absolutely. And that's
Because
when life really begins to shift.
this is where it begins, because I believe that this is where, in our heart, is where there's a spark of the divine. I believe that we all have it, and we're all
Yes.
one, and that's how we're connected, is through that divinity. And to, like you were saying, we're all meant to experience joy and to have this life of abundance. And I believe that's what spirit does want for us. I believe that's why we're here on earth, to experience that.
Yes.
And it takes, it's a little bit more than that, because I think that what happens is when you align, your will with the will of the divine, is when things start to flow and you really feel like you're, like where you're meant to be.
Yes.
You know,
You get
when
those
you,
inspirational ideas, right? And you're like, oh, that feels good. And then you embrace it, even though it may mean you're stepping out of your comfort zone, right? You get
yeah,
this feeling like you're doing something that just feels good and it's natural. And what
yes,
I
yes,
experience, right, from that point, it's like you start doing a little bit more and a little bit more until you start to really transform into a whole new way of doing things. And that's what happens when you open up your heart.
yes, yes. And you let go of all those, expectations of who I should be, what
Right.
I should do. It's all about doing rather than being, and I believe that we're meant to, first of all, be who we truly are. Like you were talking about being authentic. Yes, because even though we're all the same, we're all a little bit different, because we're different
Yes.
expressions of divinity, right? We're not the same in
Yes.
that regard. So if we can be our authentic selves, then we help other people, that brings out their best, their authenticity, their goodness, their whatever it is that makes them shine.
Hmm.
We can bring that
Yes.
out. That's what I believe.
Absolutely. Through my experience, you start building those characteristics of, being more compassionate, having more patience, right? It just starts to really change your inner being because you're spending more time being,
Hmm.
being more lovable, being more caring and understanding for yourself. Because I don't think, my old way of thinking was, wait a minute, I can't think about myself. I need to go do, 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 do. I need to get this done. I need to get this done. So there was so much less time spending with myself.
Yes.
And this is one of and when I say that I did not spend time connecting with my spirit, the one that's helping me to get up in the morning and breathe. That very thing that helps me to breathe and open my eyes in the morning. So living from that place now, being connected, I have my own spiritual practice now that I get up in the morning and I'm loving life and I didn't even step out the door yet. and there's no hurry to step out the door until I take care of me first, right? It's like filling up my cup first and
Yeah.
then I
No.
go out and take care of everyone else and it feels great doing it.
Yeah. And that is so important. You're right. Because once we feel connected and fulfilled and peaceful and joyful, all of those things that we bring in to our energy field, then we can send those out to others. And if we, the whole thing about the law of attraction, and I believe that
Yes.
it does work that way, because if we're sending out
Yes.
negative messages, if we're tired, if we're angry, if we're frustrated, if we're jealous, all of the things that we could be, if we wake up and walk out the door that way, then we're sending the message to other people that that's who we are. That's what we feel. So then we get them to feel that way too. I believe that really works. And we get it back.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I believe in that movie, which I probably watched at least 5 times, at least five. Um, there was a scene there where it shows like you get up in the morning and you're late for work and you stump your toe, and the next thing you know, it's just a trickle effect, right? Because we're just doing and doing, and that's the reality of a lot of people's lives now. It's like we are still in that mode of we don't stop to say, what do I want? What does the soul really want? And and that's because we're not living on purpose. We haven't found, or we're not living with whatever passion we have inside of us, because we all have a passion inside of us, and it's being hidden because we are scared to come out and say it, because we're scared to take a chance, a risk, right? So we're living unauthentically. We're living just, I need to survive, and that surviving mode doesn't work.
And I think that's so true, Giovanna, because to me, fear is the big issue. So there's either fear or there's love.
Yes.
Love is the antidote to fear. But so many of us are holding on to old patterns, ways of being back, either from our childhood or our young adulthood, that we're not aware of it. They're unconscious fears. We don't say them to ourselves.
Yes.
We don't know. So we don't know what we don't know, actually.
Exactly. And it's funny because today I had a conversation with someone who said, I want to let go, but I don't know how to let go. I don't want to be in charge of everything. I don't want to have the top job, and I don't want to make all this money because I don't feel good inside. So I think there's a shift that is going on in this world, that people are starting to recognize there's something missing in their life, not tangible, not matter, but they can't pinpoint what it is. And I can 100% say with all my heart, it's the connection to your true self. It's your connection to that spirit, that soul that's calling you to do something that is meaningful, because we all have a purpose here. I say we won the battle over a million other little squiggly things that wanted to come into this world. We did it. We won. So we won because we have something good to share with this world. And if you're not sharing it, you're feeling unfulfilled. You're feeling unpeace. This is where the anger, anxiety, stress all comes from, because you're not doing what you really would love to do.
Right. Because you were told otherwise. You were given messages growing up, whether it was your home or the school or your workplace, that either you weren't enough or there was something, you should be doing. All of those shoulds, right? Like you should go to work, you should get married, you should make money, all of these. We don't know any better. So we believe that. And we believe that's all there is. That's what I've witnessed time and time again. And then we wake up and we go, what's missing? What is this all there is? What else is there? Yeah.
And then it's like it opened up a whole new world when you make that connection and you increase your level of awareness, consciousness. You step into knowing there is another way of living without the fear, the worry, and doubt. The law of, they used to mention the law of attraction. Well, there's the law of polarity. There's an opposite to everything. So scientifically, we have more than 60,000 thoughts a day, right? How do we take the good ones instead of the bad ones? Because we seem to capture the bad ones and then roll with the bad ones, where they literally stop us from doing things that we may love to do. And right?
Exactly. And I think you're right. The first step is to become aware of them, or conscious of your thoughts, because most of us aren't. I certainly wasn't. That little voice in our head that's always telling us things that aren't true. And it is. It's usually fear-based, or things are things we picked up when we were younger. And there's ways to counteract that. You know, it's not so simple to just say, stop thinking negative thoughts and start thinking positive ones, because what I have experienced and found to be true is that it's really important to change our limiting beliefs first.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And that really sets the stage for being able to change your thoughts, your patterns, your habits, your beliefs by doing that.
And that's beautiful because, you know, I study something as well called Psyche, and it's all about changing the perception of those thoughts that led you to believe you were limited or you couldn't do it. When you do this work, this is called inner work, right? It's not enough just to go to a therapist and do conscious work. Therapy is, you know, on the conscious level. It's so important to really dig deep into the root causes of why do you believe what you believe? What made you think that way? You know, start asking questions from your heart. Saying, why do I believe I can't do this or I can't have that? And when you're doing the inner work, you're not looking at the inside. It's just you and that other voice trying to figure it out. Because when you come to the truth, you can't do anything. You might have to go get trained. You may need some training. You know, I have a friend of mine came on the show and she says, you have gold stored inside your heart. And when you connect to it, you're living authentically, because now you're being guided. You get these, you know, nudges, and intuition, you know, gets unheightened because you're truly getting thoughts that align with your true self, with your authentic self. Right?
Yes, because spirit and the universe, whatever you want to call it,
yes,
you know, yeah, it wants us to connect. It wants us to be happy and fulfilled, basically, and live a meaningful life and help others. And that's the way to do it, is, like you said, to connect with who you truly are. Listen to your intuition instead of your mind. Because
and you know,
I believe, yeah.
Go ahead. I'm so sorry. Go ahead.
Well, no, I was just going to say that I believe that intuition is communication from our higher self, from spirit.
I do too. We're going to take a short break, and we come back. Okay. Let's talk about the mind, the brain, because that is the controlling, the what do they call it? The station, the control station that really guides us. So we'll be back, everyone. Short break, and we'll be right back.
Now, the vast majority, approximately 95% of the people of all countries, go around and around without aim or purpose. They drift with the circumstances of life, good or bad.
A drifter is one who permits himself to be influenced and controlled by circumstances outside of his own mind.
Whereas the successful individuals create their own circumstances and ride them to victory.
When you're on purpose, you're living on purpose. You will never quit if you have a real purpose.
A burning desire to be and to do is the starting point from which the dreamer must take off. But what I have done has been recorded, it's been tested, it's being taken to a free world, and it's going to benefit millions of people who are not yet born.
And it's going to benefit millions of people who are not yet born. We're some of those people. That we're spreading this to the world. As your awareness grows, the doubt is gone, so that you can manifest whatever it is your heart desires. Isn't that beautiful?
So I love the Napoleon Hill Institute because this is where it all started for me, where I grew my awareness and understanding how this mind works. And when you know how it works, now your level of awareness changes and you start to look at things differently. One of my mentors is Dr. Wayne Dyer. He says, change the way you look at things, and the things you look at will change. So
that is one of my favorite truisms, because it is true. Yes.
Right. And so what that really means, when I say that over and over and over again to myself all the time, is how are you looking at that situation? Because it's you who's projecting what it is. And then that reflects to you. What it reflects to you is based on your thinking.
Right. We're creating our own reality. I believe that.
Absolutely. And some, may say, well, what do you mean by that? Katie, can you explain that?
Well, I don't know if I can fully explain it, but I can tell you what my experience of it is.
Sure.
Because to me, that's what's more important, is not the intellectual side of it, but the experience of it. And it's similar to, the saying, when you change the way you're looking at something, that something changes, because you have a perspective, and I'll use an example that's pretty recent, and it concerns my husband. And he does things the way he does things. Okay. And it's not always the way I would do it. Okay. And one of the things is loading the dishwasher. Okay. Very simple thing that we all, pretty much all of us deal with. And it used to bother me the way he did it, because it wasn't quote my way, wasn't right. Right. So I would change it. I would say something to him. I would try to change the way he did it. And then after, I did this training and everything, I realized that if I just looked at it differently, if I just said, you know what, he's loading the dishwasher. Isn't that great? Isn't that like so helpful? Isn't that really, really nice? And it doesn't matter if it's not the way I do it, he's still doing it. Yeah. And after that, Giovanna, I was like, didn't bother me at all. So that's what I mean by create your reality. So my reality used to consist of being frustrated, being annoyed. Now my reality is grateful.
That's right. That's right.
So
and that's how we start looking. So a beautiful story. I'm sure everyone can relate on looking at the good in something, being grateful that even if it's a bad experience, there's something good that's going to come out of it. There's a knowing that when we are connected, that even the worst experiences, and I'm here to vouch for it, again, from experience, to say, even the worst, there is always something good that comes out of it. And to trust that. I remember, and I'll share a personal story. I was teaching 6th grade math. And I promise you, when I got to algebra, I was lost. I was just lost. And I was doing it and spending hours. Like, I would get to school at 6 a.m, leave at 9 o'clock at night. I was the last teacher, probably the last, even after the custodians left, I was still there trying to figure it out. I did that for such a long time that finally the principal said to me, I have a promotion for you. And it wasn't a promotion, it was a demotion. I'm going to tell you that right now. He's like, I have a principal who's looking for an elementary teacher, and you're it. And I knew, one side of me was crying. The other side of me was like, thank God, because that's what I wanted to be, an elementary teacher. I never wanted to teach middle school, but that was the only position that was open at the time, right? And although I thought it was the worst thing in the world, that led me to teach students with autism, which was the biggest blessing that I could ever ask for. Because when you look at the students and you see that, they're all working from the soul. They're all working from their spirit, right? Because they don't know how to be mean. Like, it opened up my heart so much that, again, from a very, natural setting of thinking that something went wrong, it actually was the best reward that I could ever receive. So I'm here to say,
yeah,
it's true. It's so true.
Yeah. And I believe that also, this is another axiom, that things happen for us, not to us. And it's a matter of perspective. Because if you had the victim mentality, you would say, oh, I don't deserve this. I'm not a bad teacher. You'd start making excuses and looking at it in a negative way, even though it didn't feel so good. But you knew that it was really ultimately for your benefit and the benefit of the children that you served.
I didn't know that then, but I knew that once I've experienced that, where I needed to be.
That it was coming. You trusted, right?
Yes. It's where I needed to be. And that's another great point to make in our conversation here, is that sometimes, even if you don't want something, if it's not for you, if it's not meant for you, there will be a way that you will be taken away from that. Because we're not meant to suffer. So if you're doing something that is not in alignment with what you really want, as such in my story, right? It's like, I knew in my heart I really didn't want to teach algebra.
Yeah. Well,
So,
yes.
And I was living with not being true to myself. I really wanted to be an elementary teacher, teaching the little ones. Yeah. And so higher power, I call it God, your universe, whatever you would like to call it, my spirit knew I was not in the place of alignment. It took me away from there. And that is the same thing with our relationships. That is the same thing with, our jobs. It's, if you're not in alignment, if you're not working with your truest self,
yes,
it
doesn't work.
It doesn't work.
And I think, Giovanna, that's another example of creating your own reality, because, at first you were creating this job, and it wasn't something that was in alignment. So you weren't, you were thinking that it wasn't working somehow, right?
Yeah.
And so
I was like, wait a minute, but I can't be the last one closing this building every day. Like, this is not a job. Right. This is like, I'm in jail. Like, literally, right. So then, I feel like I was so stuck.
Right. So you created a new reality that was more in line with who you were. So I think that's a great example too.
And I tell you, the rewards were big. I'm big emotionally, working with children with disabilities, and being connected to seeing the true of who we're meant to be, meaning each child was so lovable. I was always so loved, caring, affectionate. And I went from working in the elementary school to working with agencies and working with kids doing ABA at their home. And now I met the parents. So, and now you became more the compassionate and having compassion for the family and just the connection. And here's the biggest reward, is being connected with people who really, really care. Because once you open up your heart and you're working from your spirit, you're going to know if the other person is working from the heart. Mm-hmm. Right? And so then you create a connection that's unbreakable. And I believe through relationships, I don't believe I know, through relationships is how we grow. We don't grow by ourselves.
That's right.
We don't grow by ourselves. We're not alone. We were never alone. And until we can embrace this truth, that we are never alone, we will always feel like there's something missing.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's part of what happens with the fear. You know, when it creeps in, it tends to make us feel isolated, like there's nothing, you know, like there's no one else that feels like we do. And I think that's a big problem right now in the world, that people don't feel always that connection, and it's you know, it's kind of sad to see. I think, and it's a matter of you know, being vulnerable.
Choice.
And a choice, of course. Yeah, absolutely. We have a choice in everything we do. You know, that's the other big part of it is, you know, instead of reacting in a quick way without really realizing we have a choice, we just get into a deeper hole sometimes, right?
True. Yeah. Absolutely. Let's shift a little bit and talk about when we increase the level of consciousness, we become more aware of our thoughts, our feelings, our actions. And from that, then we make better decisions. My personal experience.
Mm-hmm, absolutely.
Because we now know, you know, there's the other side. You know, when we studied energy, we studied the yin and the yang, right? There's always an opposite side. So let's talk about increasing our level of awareness. You know, when we're connected, the beauty of being connected and raising our consciousness, our awareness of things.
Yeah, and we also can raise our vibration. You know,
Mm-hmm.
there's physical ways to do that as well through what we eat, who we talk to, who we associate with, the music we listen to, the media we consume. All of these things change our vibration, our energetic vibration. And I think that, you know, once you're aware of that, you can consciously decide who to associate with, what to listen to, what to watch, what to read, how to take care of yourself, you know, because our bodies are not us, but they're very important to us to achieve what we want in this world, to be healthy, to be happy, to help other people. So that's part of it, is raising your vibration. And knowing that your conscious mind is not you either. And, you know, one of my teachers used to say, it's really important to make best friends with your mind. So it's not you, but when you hear these little thoughts, that little voice in your head that's saying something that is not true, well, you can just stop and listen and say, you know, thank you for your input. However, I am, you know, I don't really feel that way anymore, you know, or whatever it is. But if you try to just shut it down, you know, tune it out totally, then that doesn't work, because it's like that force. You know how when something gets stronger when it pushes against something. So if you push against it, it's not going to leave. It's going to keep saying, but listen, keep coming back. But if you listen and you become aware of it and say, thank you for your input, you know, but I'm gonna do something different now. I'm not that.
Take a back seat.
Yeah.
Take the back seat. Right?
Yeah, I take the back seat. Just, you know, would you mind stepping aside for a few minutes, because you know, I really feel that this is important for me to do, or whatever it is. Like if you're scared to try something new, and you listen to this voice saying, but what if you mess up? People are going to think you're stupid. People are going to do this, that. And if you say, well, you know what? I'm aware of that, and I appreciate your concern, because this voice is always has your best interest, really, ultimately.
Yes.
And if you listen and say, you know, I'm an adult now. I'm pretty sure I can do this. Let me give it a try, you know?
Yeah.
And the worst thing that could happen is nothing, you know, when you think about it, right?
Right, because it's a thought. It's just a thought. And I've studied and read several ways and techniques. You can just simply say, cancel that, you know, cancel it. Like, don't feed it. because sometimes too, when you start to feed it, it can grow, right? And,
Right.
our mind is like a garden. I have another friend, the mind is like a garden. What seeds we plant are the thoughts that come to mind. So, it's either you're seeding for beautiful vegetables or for ugly flowers. It's your choice. So what are we planting in our mind is very important because it does control our decision making. Our feelings are truly connected to the decisions we make in life. We make decisions based on our feelings, and our feelings come from our experiences. And so, what experiences, sometimes the experiences that we have had will create the thinking, the negative thinking, because we only saw it one way from that experience.
Right, and our unconscious mind looks for evidence. So if it sees evidence that something didn't work, then it's going to grab onto that. But if you retrain it, if you try things and you prove the opposite, for example, then the unconscious mind sees that evidence, then it starts to believe it, and then it's much easier to get do what you really want to do.
Absolutely. Knowing that the mind is mendable, right? We can retrain it.
We can retrain, and the unconscious mind is really kind of the one who affects us the most, even though it feels like the conscious mind is the one, because that's the doer, but the unconscious mind is the one that's underneath everything and is the one that's can either help us or hinder us, really.
Absolutely. It's Dr. Bruce Lipton who, so many say the same thing, but the subconscious mind runs 95% of what we do in our daily activity and decisions. So that means we are running on programs. And if you consider yourself like a computer, well, it's time to upgrade those programs because, if you want more out of life, you can't stay the same. Having Microsoft, when new applications come out, we have to, if you want a better computer and it's working fast and it's doing a lot more things, we're no different. We need to upgrade. We need an upgrade when we're feeling stuck. And doing the same thing or doing more of the same thing is never going to be the right answer that you're looking for. So it's, stepping into that personal development where you start to learn about yourself is so crucial, so crucial. Like I say it all the time. I have a master's in banking, a master's in education, real estate license, esthetician license. I love to learn, but I never learned about me, who I am.
Right.
And, having this wake-up call that helped me to say, okay, let me stop because something is not right here. I'm doing everything to be the perfect wife, mom, daughter. And I come to a roadblock where my life, comes to a screeching halt with my cancer journey. And now I understand why. And I was able to make a commitment to myself to change. And this is where, I connected to my true being, my spirit, my soul, whatever you want to call it. And now I'm working from that end. And I will tell you that life is so different. So different. Yeah. And this is what we want to share. This is what we want to share. You've spoken to many clients. Been doing this so long. Do you see a pattern in what they're looking for and what they want out of life when they come to you? Like, let's talk about it.
Yeah. Okay, everybody's a little bit different, obviously, but I think there is a overarching theme of like that spiritual connection, that sense of fulfillment, that sense of meaning in their life. Like, what gives your life meaning? what makes you feel fulfilled? Those type of words that people use to say, in essence, something's missing, but I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
And it's often happens in transitions. I work with a lot of people who are either changing careers or winding down a career or starting something new or or ending a relationship, or somebody close to them has an illness, some type of transition. And I think that type of point in your life brings things to the surface for you to look at that you weren't aware of. Because you know how sometimes, Giovanna, we go through life and we're like on autopilot. Maybe you were before, you had your wake up call, that we get up, we do what we need to do. We go to work or we stay home with our kids, whatever it is that we do. And we never really question, what are we doing? Or why are we doing it? Or who's benefiting? Or, it's just like we're doing what we thought we were supposed to do,
Yes, that's a very simple way of saying it, but you're right. I personally was on autopilot. And, I'm here to say, like, we don't have to wait for something really bad to happen to say something's missing, or what did I do wrong, or why do I deserve this?
Right.
Let that not be the case. We don't have to wait for that.
No, you don't. And you don't even have to feel like anything's missing. Like in my case, I didn't know that something was missing until I was offered something different. Do you know what I mean? Like, I didn't go around saying what's missing, what's missing. No, I was offered this other way of being. And I went, oh, wow, that's what was missing. I didn't even know what I didn't know.
Yeah.
So I think that people, what we can get the word out about is, don't wait until you get sick. Don't wait until you have an accident. Don't wait until you get fired from your job. Just start looking at how can things get better, because even if things are good or great, they can always get better, always.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so you have to surround yourself. And here's where I get making the connection, making the relationships. You have to surround yourself with people that are like-minded, right? People that want to grow, people that look to be more, experience more in this lifetime, versus you have other people who are just, they're unhappy. They're the victim of everything,
who are stuck. Yeah.
Who are stuck. And I'm not saying not to be compassionate for them. What I'm saying is, who are you hanging around with? What communities or what people are lifting you up? Because this is where you're going to have more experiences that feel good. Are the people that are going to help you to raise up your level of consciousness.
Raise your consciousness, raise your vibration. And I think the way to discover that is like, who makes you feel, good about yourself, rather than, brings you down and makes you feel, tired or irritated or things like that, and the other thing that's important is that inner peace. Because, and I just wrote a little thing about this in my newsletter last week. It's like, if you're around people that are peaceful, they have that inner peace, don't you feel better? Don't you feel more yourself? Don't you feel more calm? Don't you feel more, in a way, energized? It's kind of odd that peace brings you, a good kind of energy, not a, frantic type of energy, but just like that peace of knowing who you really are. And if you can be around people like that, then that will give you a clue as to, who you are and what to do.
Absolutely. And it's through your feelings, right? The vibration. Let's talk about that a little bit, Judy. The vibration comes from our emotions, right? And if something's feeling good and great, you're going to feel it, and you're going to be happy, and you're going to show it, and you're going to, share it. And if something is not feeling good, you're gonna feel that too. And the question comes, are you doing something about what doesn't feel good? Or are you keeping it inside, stored inside, that no one needs to hear about it? Because I believe that is when we start manifesting illnesses, is when we start keeping that bad energy within ourselves, because we don't want to make any trouble. We don't want to rock the boat, as a friend said. And so we keep it all in until one day we just burst. One day we just say, okay, enough is enough. Like, it's time to really take a look at that as well, because we are feeling and behave towards others how we feel inside. So
well, that is so true, because that's the second agreement is, not to take anything personally, because if somebody says something to you, it's because they don't feel good about themselves. If they say something demeaning to you, they're demeaning themselves. I totally believe that. Yeah. And it is really important to, to keep that energy that feels like it's helping you rather than hindering you.
And that comes down to self-love. So let's take a little moment to talk about how important it is to be compassionate with yourself first, to love yourself first,
mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Because we can't give it if we don't have it. So how can we expect someone to love us if they don't love themselves? So when you are looking for someone to give you things, whether it's love or anything, look in the mirror and ask yourself, do you love yourself? Are you compassionate for yourself? Right? Because that is so crucial in us to grow and to have more confidence in ourselves. It's like, that is, our identity, how we feel about ourselves when we look in the mirror, is the foundation of what really drives our life and our decisions, whether we can do things or cannot do things.
Right. And most of the time we're not thinking about that. We're not aware of whether we accept ourselves or love ourselves. And one of my teachers used to say, well, if you don't have any practice with self-love, just start with liking yourself. Just start with liking. Then you can progress to love. Or for me, it's like acceptance. And then that goes to radical acceptance, because we accept others, so we have to accept ourselves, right? And I'll share another little exercise with you. Do we have time for that?
Yes. Yeah, we have about 5 more minutes.
This is something that I love, because it shifted things for me a long time ago, and it's about choosing something. Because it's just like a little energetic thing where, instead of saying, well, if you don't like your boss, say, and then you say, well, I accept my boss because he has this issue and that issue, so I accept him the way he is. I'm okay with that, right? And then you could say, I choose him exactly as he is and exactly as he is not. And I actually did this with my son a number of years ago, because there were some things that I was concerned about. And I just said to myself, basically, but you're really saying it to, your higher power and the universe. And you can write it down and say it as many times as you need to until you feel a shift. And you say, I choose him exactly as he is and exactly as he is not. And I had to say it, probably dozens of times before I felt a shift. But once I did, it was profound. Because
you did it so many times, and it went right to the subconscious mind. So you changed the core,
to the
subconscious
mind, also to the heart and the soul, and my whole being. Everything shifted when I finally got it. It was remarkable. So I just wanted to share that for people who wanted to give it a try.
That's beautiful. There's also another point that I like to make, is when we do open up our heart, it's the heart of forgiving, the art of forgiving. how important it is that as you step into your authentic self, as you do work from your heart, there's a lot of pain there from our experiences. We all experience some kind of trauma in our life. Doesn't have to be big, but we all got hurt at some point in our lives. And when we are on this path of connecting, you start to become more compassionate to yourself and to others. And that is because you start to feel the need to forgive and let go of anything that has hurt you in the past, because that's really what's preventing any of us to move forward sometimes, is those experiences that we had. So I also, encourage those who really are stepping into a new you, look back and just forgive and let go anything that has, hurt you in the past.
Yeah, no, that's
accept,
perfect.
like you said.
Yeah, for the new year, forgiveness. I remember doing a workshop a couple of years ago in January and had people write down first what they want to forgive themselves for. You start with that.
Yes.
And then you start to work on other people, what you want to forgive them for. And, you can do the Ho'oponopono, which works really well.
Just read my mind.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that. That's a mantra that you can say to yourself. And basically it goes, it doesn't matter what order you say it in, but it says, I'm sorry, please forgive me. I'm sorry, thank you, and I love you. And it doesn't matter how you say it, because when you say it, it's meant for your heart first.
Yes. Say it to yourself first too. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And it's, you will receive whatever feelings that needs to come up and release, and you feel so much better. And then it's given out to whoever. And it's a practice that I did for a while too, to again, overcome those challenges and those experiences that I had that were not in alignment with my true self. And going through that has just opened up my heart to receive more love, and I feel this information that we know is so important to share, because we can't keep it to ourselves. It's like we discovered the secret recipe to life. And
well, that's true. Yeah.
And for those who are looking to change, it's really making that connection. We have a few more minutes left. Katie, tell us about your center a little bit, because you have a center in Westport, Connecticut.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah. Okay, sure. Yeah, I call it the Transformation Center because that's what it's about, is transformation. And it's in my home here in Westport. And I do individual sessions with clients. I either do transformation coaching or shamanic healing. And sometimes we combine the two. I have clients who do one and then they do the other. And really the goal is like we've been talking, is to help you let go of who you're not and change your limiting beliefs. Or, in the energy healing, I help you release energy that's not serving you because you have blockages in different parts of your body or your chakra system. And it can really, really make a huge difference, and get everything flowing more smoothly, so where you can basically create the life that you want because you feel like you're being stopped in some way. So I can help you with that. We also host classes and workshops here. And you can go on my website, which is right there on the screen, Transformation Center CT for Connecticut. And there's a calendar of events there. You can check that out. One thing people might be interested in is once a month, Giovanna, we have online on Zoom, a shamanic clinic. And what that is, you can sign up for a little 30-minute time slot and you get an introduction to shamanic healing. So you'll get an extraction healing. Yeah. And it's a community service, so there's no charge for it. You can make a small donation if you wish. And it's the second Tuesday of every month. So it's really, it's great if you want to just check it out. It's an easy way to learn about it. So you can go on the website, just sign up there. Yeah. Yeah, so that's
beautiful.
That's in a nutshell what I do, and I
nutshell.
also do offer, you know, a free consultation if anybody wants to have a 30-minute phone call. So.
Awesome. Well, your information is also in the bio, and I just want to say thank you so much for joining me today. It was such a pleasure to have you and to share your wisdom with my audience. You know, as you go, as you start the year, you know, always be true to yourself, because that is the way to live happy, fulfilled, and just joyful. So thank you everyone for joining me. I'm your host, Giovanna Torravone from Sparking Change with Gigi. Thank you. See you next week. Bye-bye, everyone. Bye-bye, Katie. Thank you.
Sparking Change with Gigi, a show that aims to make the world a better place by bringing together authentic minds. This show encourages each of us to be the change we wish to see in the world. Get ready to be inspired and join us on this journey to create a brighter future for all.